born with a million words inside my body, and I've spent most of my life trying to get them out, formulate them into stories to share with audiences, and to meet a kindred who is also a gifted storyteller. If you ever have the chance to find one, hold on to them for dear life and listen and enjoy. And today it is my absolute pleasure to have here on Uncovering Authenticity, my guest in the studio today. It's Peter Chatteris. Woo! I wish we had 1 million people in our audience here today. Hopefully we will.
Well, there are.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah, exactly.
In our heads.
Exactly.
Peter, I wanted you to come into the studio because my podcast is very much about people unpacking their story, uncovering their why, getting to the core of who they really are, how they show up in the world, why they do the work we do because I do it too, and really tapping into their extraordinary selves. And I recently met you at Auckland Toastmasters, and I watched you speak. And I had this incredible magic moment where I went, this man is a story on legs. And I was intrigued and engaged. And even though we were in a boardroom, it was like being in a grand theatre, and you were on the stage in the spotlight. And your story was amazing. Peter, where did this all begin? Where did this gift begin?
I think it began back in primary school because I was always told to pull up my socks. And my mum kept on making me tighter garters all the time, but somehow they didn't stand up. And I remember writing an essay, and I've still got it, and it's got more red marks over it than anything else. And the teacher said, "You'll never make it. Yeah, you're stupid," because I wasn't doing what the teacher wanted. I was being creative. And it wasn't until I went to secondary school and a teacher introduced me to drums. And I thought, oh, this is cool. I can make a noise just out of, getting a couple of sticks and just whacking them on this piece of skin. Oh. But I still got told to pull my socks up because I didn't read all the little English books.
Oh, no.
Shakespeare, forget it, But hitting the drums, oh, yeah, that was cool. And it kind of made me feel as though maybe I have got a little bit of creativity. So I guess that's where it started, to answer your question.
Wow. And so from that, obviously being a performer very much like myself, how did you feel, especially as a child, how did you feel when you had that moment as a performer? For me, I always, and I know we talked about this earlier, it's, especially for a performer, your stage is the safe place. So what was it like for you being a young performer? Because you've done some theatre and you've done some performance. What was that like for you? Do you remember?
Yeah, absolutely. It was like I had control because at school I was bullied, and so I didn't have control. And if you relinquish control to somebody else, then you're giving up the power that you could have within. And I felt that when I was on stage, I had the power to be able to help and influence and show other people their own creativity.
Oh, that's so good. Even at a young age, you were doing that.
Yeah. When I was 14, 15, if I got any opportunity to speak, then I'd get up in front and speak. And generally speaking, people would listen.
So in that moment, and we talked a bit before the podcast today, we talked about the magic that happens as a speaker and a storyteller between yourself and the audience. And for people who aren't in this game, I'd love for you with your creative mind to be able to express in whatever descriptive words you need, and they don't even have to link together. What is that feeling like for you?
So it's a cold night and you're snuggled up in bed and you feel safe and you feel secure and you feel the whole world can be kept out and that your feelings are unique to yourself. And that's what it's like for me. It's like when I'm on stage, it's a warm feeling. It's something that empowers me, but not only empowers me, enables me to empower the audience. And so it's a safe, secure way. And for that moment that I'm on the stage, it becomes that safe haven that then not only is safe for me, but it also helps the audience.
So interesting. I myself have also been through bullying, and for me, I got put into performing arts because my parents knew I had a voice, and that what I noticed was being on stage was the safe place. The bullies couldn't touch me. Right?
Exactly.
Same. And also what I noticed too is the louder I became as a speaker, the less the bullies could touch me as well, because of course I could call them out. And I think I've just been explaining to a bunch of people that I think performing arts, learning to speak, is not just something that's fun and enjoyable, it's a life skill. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's communication. I mean, the communication is the exchange of ideas between two individuals. I think a lot of speakers, what they do is they think they're the only ones communicating. And to me, that's wrong, because you're not communicating with a computer. You know, the audience is not a collective, it's individuals, for me anyway. And so it's all about that communication. It's about the beauty of two ideas being exchanged between two people. Yeah, and I always like to think that every single person in that audience, I hope, feels connected to me and feels special. Oh, definitely.
In that moment, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, Peter, you've had quite the career. From the little snippets that I've heard, you've done everything from working in antiques, you've worked on talkback radio. Tell me some of the other interesting things, because I think I've worked in retail as well. I worked in retail for a long time. And for me, that was a performance. Is that how you felt with the antique store?
Oh, yeah. So with the antique shop, a bit of a story that leads up to that, but I had a lawnmower run. Now, the problem is I didn't have a lawnmower, so...
Okay, let's just get some logic around that. How did that work?
Well, what I did was to go around the area and I said, well, look, I'll use your lawnmower to mow your lawns and I'll come in under price, right?
You are clever.
Well, it became a little bit profitable because I started noticing, this was in Australia, some old furniture underneath houses. And generally the people were elderly. And I thought, oh, this is kind of cool. I like that. So I bought a book on how to restore furniture and started swapping lawn mowing for some of the old furniture. And then I wandered around places and I went into a couple of antique shops and I said, could I put my furniture in here? You know, give you a cut. But what I want to learn is how to restore. So I did. And then I ended up making waxes from this book, and we used to cool them down in our swimming pool and put them into lunch boxes and take them around to all the antique shops, which eventually led into making my own waxes. I started doing, within, I think, 3 years or 4 years of reading this book, I was out there lecturing around Australia on antiques. So I don't know how that happened, possibly just a brain spasm or something.
How incredible.
Yeah.
Wow, so you're quite the entrepreneur, aren't you?
I think being an entrepreneur is just putting ideas into action.
Yeah.
Entrepreneur, I'm not sure what it means, but it's got the word entre. And so you're actually entering a business.
Oh, I've never thought about that. That's a bit of a mic drop moment, as Oprah would say.
Exactly.
Okay, so interesting. So from there, you moved on to other work.
Yeah. So I started to get noticed with these different talks that I was giving. And I got asked to write for a magazine called Carter's, which is an international antique magazine. But I was having problems with my mental health. And it really, that put a paid to it. So I came back here to New Zealand. I could concentrate for probably half an hour. So I was quite ill. And so I needed something that was going to increase that concentration. So I started studying computers. So I studied that for about a month and then put letters out in letterboxes and said, I'll repair your computer. Well, I really didn't know how to keep but I was able to somehow do it.
Yeah.
My second computer job was a teacher. And she said to me, who I married, and she said to me, Pete, at school, we've got a music program. She knew I played drums. Could you teach drums? I said, yeah, no problem. I'll come down. She said, you get paid. Oh, even better. So that started my music education career. And then I went into audio production, music technology, that sort of thing.
Oh, my goodness. See, you are, that's so typical of a true creative in the fact that it almost doesn't matter what we do. We do it with every single piece of our being.
Oh.
We jump into it, usually until we've mastered it. And once we've mastered it, we're bored with it and we want to move on to something else, right? Would that be fair?
Oh, yeah, totally. You know, I have a couple of music students at the moment. They approached me. They were down in Rotorua. And I didn't, I'm over teaching music. You know, it's not as boring, but it's been there, done that, right, move on to something else. But they approached me, they were recommended to me, so I do them on Zoom. And they're lovely.
Great.
Lovely students.
Yeah.
So I've just got my hand in a little bit with that.
Beautiful. Now, let's move into talkback radio you've done for a little while. How was that experience for you?
Yeah, I worked with a guy called Paul Lynham. So a friend of mine was doing dream interpretation. Excuse me. And she said, Pete, what about doing an antique show on talkback radio?
Wow, what a great idea.
Yeah. So Paul and I got together and people would ring up and say, oh, I've got this, that and the other thing, how do I restore it and what do I use and how much is it worth? And so it developed my impromptu sort of thing. I was able to, just with a description, tell them all that sort of thing. And we started getting a lot of mail in. You remember that? You know,
mail, yeah.
Yeah, mail, you know,
Wow.
made out of paper.
Yeah.
So we started to get that in. And it sort of grew to a stage where I think we had the most popular show out of all the specialty.
That's just incredible.
Yeah.
So by the sounds of it, I know that you are super creative, but at the core of it, everything that you've done in your life has come back to you, your personality, your ability to communicate. And even now, in the space that you're in now, you're a professional speaker. You are an award-winning speaker as well. And I just wanted to point out these two trophies. I'll just move our glasses of bubbles out of the way. These two trophies on the table. Tell me about these.
So I'm in Toastmasters, and Toastmasters is quite a competitive organisation. I've been in 8 years, excuse me, and in 8 years I've reached district final 4 times, which is, it used to be New Zealand wide. Now it's it's the North Island, basically. I've been in the international contest twice and table topics twice. So this one's table topics, which is impromptu. So last year I got through to the district final. It's my 2nd year in a row, and this year I won it. Yeah,
That's so good. And impromptu speaking is really hard, especially when you've got no idea what the topic's going to be.
No.
It is super hard, but such a great challenge for our brains. And you've got to put all of those speaking skills into action. Yep. Not only are you dealing with what the heck am I going to say, how am I going to formulate it, knowing the structure of a speech, acknowledging everybody, following the protocol of Toastmasters, but also being there for the audience, entertaining, engaging them, educating them or influencing them or whatever. It's really tough.
And you've got to do it in 2 minutes. So what I've done, or the technique that I've got, and I guess I do this for a lot of speeches, I've got templates.
Yep.
And the subject, I did a 40-minute impromptu one time, and it was just a bit of fun. It was in a Toastmaster club, and I meant to, as part of the communication, do that. But I thought, oh, crikey, I'm doing it today. Oh, what do I speak about? Oh, I don't know. I'll let them decide. So they said potatoes. And I was able to sort of turn potatoes around and make 40 minutes. 40 minutes.
For 40 minutes?
Yeah.
Wow. So for somebody who isn't comfortable or confident as a speaker, what do you think is the key to success for maintaining your energy, but also maintaining engagement with an audience for that period of time?
Yeah, it's to understand the structure of a speech. So you're going to capture an audience right from the start by making an impact opening. Some people will say, oh, well, you're just going to do an introduction. But if you can't get that audience on side straight away, then you've lost that audience in the first part. So, for example, in a table topic, a 2-minute table topic, I've got 4 templates. And I can drop the subject within 1 second or 2 seconds into one of those templates. And from there, it's easy. Because the one on the weekend was, should sports people be held to higher morals? So
that's intense.
Yeah, well, on the surface it wasn't, but underneath it wasn't. Or underneath it, you had a lot of space in which to create. So I chose template 1, which was to say, everybody put their hands up if they think they've got high morals. And so I wanted to establish where that moral boundary was, and then say, do we look at our heroes? Do we have a look at our sports people and say they should be above our morals? And if so, why? And how are they going to show that?
That's powerful.
Yeah. And so I related back to the audience. And then the outro was basically saying, so when you go from here today, I want you to have a look at your morals. And I want you not to judge other people against your morals. But I want you to look in the mirror and see where your morals truly are.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's intense. And obviously it did you well because you won.
Yeah.
So congratulations
Thank
to you. Wow. Now, my understanding too is obviously you're a professional speaker, so people can book you.
Yes.
But you're also a published author. Now, for somebody who used to write documents that had red marks all through them from your teacher and your teacher telling you you'd never be good enough, to be a published author is a big deal. Tell me about your books.
People have been telling me for a long time to write my life story. And I've always said, no, everybody's got a story. But then I started to think, and my doctor then told me that you need to write a story. Now, what Donna says, you do. So I thought, I'll get them. If I can find a publisher, I'll do it. But if I can't, I don't want to self-publish. Right? So I sent my work out to a few publishers, and one of them, I'm doing a bit of a deal with them. So I'm putting some money in, they're putting some money in. And that's called My Life Inside a Nine-Sided Ping Pong Ball.
Wow, that's intense.
Yeah,
wow.
So now they want to release it in 2 parts. But I decided then that, okay, I need, to write. And so I started writing this first book, or it wasn't even a book. And I thought, that's kind of cool. That'll do. So, self-published that. That's about real estate. And then the second one was about email marketing. And that kind of just wrote itself, really. It's 300 pages. And then the third one was just a flowchart thing. But the latest one is called The Butterfly Phenomenon. And that's about public speaking.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, it's about overcoming glossophobia, which we know is the
fear of public speaking. It's the number one fear in the world.
Exactly.
It overrides the fear of dying.
Exactly. Yeah, there's been a lot of studies on that. And so what I tried to do was to break it down. What is fear? Well, fear is the prediction of the unknown that could harm. So if you're predicting the future, why are you predicting a future that could harm? And what are those things that will harm you? Is it criticism? Really? Well, that's in the future.
Yeah.
Is it fear of the audience? That's in...
What can they do?
What can they do? I mean, are the audience going to get up and release a line that's going to eat you? I don't think so. Or is it this abject fear that comes from trauma of the past? Have you stood up and all of a sudden felt like an idiot when you're standing up? That's fine. But let's deal with that. And let's see how we can make you into a good speaker. Because that's in my heart. I want everybody to be able to communicate.
I absolutely agree. And I think that's where seeing you speak at Toastmasters, where I really resonated with you, I saw your absolute joy and your love for speaking and for storytelling. And I thought to myself, I wish there are lots of people who are doing it for fun and for personal growth and that sort of thing. But it is rare to see, and it's a pleasure and a joy to see someone who believes in the power of storytelling and communication, who eats, sleeps and breathes it, but also wants that for others.
Oh.
It was a beautiful thing to watch. And I just wanted to come back to your storytelling. So with you as a speaker, you've got a few different topics you talk about. Mental health is obviously one that you talk about as a speaker. And you mentioned that you've spoken for, organisations like Auckland Council and a few other really pretty big organisations. Who else have you spoken for?
A few.
Yeah, quite a few. And you can't. Yeah. Obviously, there's probably something.
One of the things that really concerns me, actually, as far as mental health goes, is workplace mental health and safety. There's no difference in the act between mental health and physical health. And yet when we onboard any company, what do? They spend a lot of time talking about tripping over things or putting your hands in the machine or whatever. But the mental health aspect is often overlooked.
Interesting, a really good point as well. So that's something you'd love to see happen more. And obviously speaking to organisations or for their teams is part of the work that you do. And the other thing that really got me was your a mini keynote, because I do call it a mini keynote that you delivered at Toastmasters, was about adoption. So I'm understanding that that's probably a passion of yours, because it comes back to identity as well. And I believe identity and mental health go hand in hand.
I don't know, passion. My passion is to get the audience to understand their own talents, their own abilities and their own creativity. That's my passion. And if I can use that adoption, if I can use mental health, if I can use my own creativity, my own background, then I've done my job. But different audiences require different things. Toastmasters is an absolutely fabulous organisation to become involved with, but it is the Toastmaster way. And so therefore some things may challenge the audience a bit too much. But it doesn't worry me, because I want that audience to be challenged. You know, I want them to go away and I want them to say my mantra in the corridors afterwards. What are they going to say in the corridors? How are they going to, you know, remember that speech? Are they going to go home and say, yeah, he had a point. What can I do to change?
Wow, that's beautiful. So, Peter, if people want to get in touch with you, if they want to book you to come in, or they want to start that conversation about coming and speaking to their organisation, to their teams, or they want to find out more about your books, how can they get in touch with you?
027 663 0765 or Pete at peterchatteris.com.
Excellent. I'll make sure that we've got those graphics up on the screen.
And you can go to peterchatteris.com.
Beautiful, peterchatteris.com. Well, look, I've so enjoyed chatting with you, and again, it was an absolute delight to see you in action as a speaker. I'd like to finish up with, what is that one thing for somebody who is considering becoming a speaker or storyteller? What is that one piece of advice from your lived, long experience of telling stories and feeling that joy and the responsibility of holding an audience in your hand, but also telling a story to create impact and change? What would be that piece of advice you'd give somebody?
Authenticity.
Yeah.
Authenticity. It's what I tend to do when I go on stage is I become a speaker. No matter how bad I'm feeling beforehand, things might have gone really wrong. No matter what I might have to face afterwards, when I'm on the stage, I'm a speaker. And I want to be authentic. Because if I'm authentic, then there's authentic communication. And if there's authentic communication, it means that the audience gets it.
Wow. Mic drop again. That's an Oprah moment. Well, Peter, thank you so much for coming into the studio today. And remember too, if you want to find out more about the great work that Peter does, head to peterchatteris.com. You've heard his phone number. You've seen his email address. Get in touch. You need to book him. He's utterly amazing. And Peter, I want to wish you a hearty congratulations for your achievements. Congratulations.
Cheers.
And cheers.
To you too.
Kia ora.
Thank you.